The ending of Squid Game, pause for spoiler alert, shows us that the games have come to America. Could this be a subtle hint to the possibility of some sort of— oh, they already confirmed it? Yeah, guys, American Squid Game. It's happening. When I first saw that this was going to be a thing, my reaction was overwhelmingly positive. But it seems that the internet is not feeling the same way, and I want to hear out their concerns. So what do we know about this American Squid Game? Why are people so worried about it? And what do I think is going to happen? Chapter 1. Where the story left off. The final scene of Squid Game revolves around In-ho, also known as the front man, traveling to Los Angeles to give the rest of Song Gi-hoon's winnings to his daughter, and also giving her his bloody, dirty shirt. Okay, this guy did a lot of messed up stuff in the show, but that's just weird, dude. While in LA, Eno rolls down his window to the sound of smacking and slapping to see an American Squid Game recruiter. On its own, this ending shows us that even though the Korean Squid Games are self-destructed after Detective Hwang reported their location, as long as there are still vulnerable people out there willing to be exploited and powerful people willing to exploit them, the games will continue. This proves right what the frontman told Gi-hoon in the limousine towards the beginning of season 2.
If the world doesn't change, the game doesn't end.
He's correct. He's still a bad person for doing what he did, but his assessment of the situation is spot on. While some were expecting the ending of Squid Game to be Gi-hoon succeeding in taking down the games, I don't think that would have worked at all as an ending, as the point of the show is that the games cannot be ended by rebelling against the game masters, or getting them arrested, or making the frontman's heart grow 3 sizes. The games end when the system allows for no one left vulnerable to exploit, and no VIPs who have disproportionate power to exploit them. And that's why the games continue. And continue they shall into the US of A. But is there anything we, the audience, should be worried about? Chapter 2. Why people are concerned. The main reason people are cautious about Squid Game America comes down to 2 words: franchise fatigue. In a media landscape dominated by MCUs and 30 seasons of The Simpsons, people just want to see stories that end. Problem is, the better a story is, the less likely it is to end, which can often lead to it going on too long. But Squid Game only had 3 seasons with a mere 22 episodes. While that's certainly enough time to tell the full story they wanted to, I still do think there's room for something more. I will say, though, that Squid Game is definitely the kind of series that does not lend itself to a gigantic extended universe. Like I said earlier, the entire point of Squid Game is that the only way to stop the games is to fix the world. It's a perpetual tragedy where the bad guys always win, as a lesson to the audience to make your own world better. While that's a great foundation for a story, there's only so much you can do with it. If the show were about fixing the social problems that allowed for the Squid Game to exist in the first place, well, then it would just be a show about solving wealth inequality. And that's not why I'm watching. I want to see the murder games. Man, I felt so called out in that scene where the VIPs were debating Young Sik's death. I was like, oh man, am I the VIP?
Are we the baddies?
However, while the overarching message of the persistence of the games in an unjust world will always remain the same, there are interpersonal stories that can still be told. Think of all the unique conflicts there were between all of the characters between the show's 3 seasons. I do believe that there are more stories that can be told with this concept, and bringing the series to a new setting might help tell more stories. Chapter 3. My hopes for Squid Game America. Another thing that I think people are not thrilled about with Squid Game America is the fact that it was on its own interesting to an American audience that Squid Game was Korean, as it gave us a glimpse into a different culture. Perhaps the biggest cultural element of Squid Game is that the games themselves were based around children's games that are popular in Korea. As an American, I either learned about a new game I'd never heard of before, like Dalgona or Dachki, or I was like, oh, look at that, these games are internationally known, in the case of Red Light Green Light or Hide and Seek. Of course, there's some positive potential here as well, because by having an American Squid Game, the show can comment on American-centric issues. Now, of course, Squid Game is still relatable to an American audience because in South Korea, they live under a similar version of capitalism, so much of the conflicts revolving around debt are relatable internationally. But at the same time, there are conflicts that could be unique to an American Squid Game, most notably our own political and racial divide. Most of the characters in Squid Game are South Korean. with a few exceptions. But America, specifically Los Angeles, where it seems Squid Game America will be focused, is much more diverse. We also have an extremely divisive, polar two-party system, where the line between those of differing beliefs is thick. In a small environment where 456 people are forced to form alliances, these categories may be the foundation of such alliances. The original Korean Squid Game also had a large focus on the characters being in debt to loan sharks, some of which would even threaten to take their organs should they fail to pay the borrowed money back. Now, everything I know about this subject comes from context clues in Squid Game, one TV show. So if anyone knows more about this facet of Korean culture, please teach me more about it in the comments. But this indicates to me that a lot of debt-related issues in Korea revolve around this sort of loan sharking system. America, on the other hand, has other forms of debt, most notably healthcare-related debt and student debt. Now, some of the characters in Korean Squid Game are motivated by healthcare-related debt, but I think an American Squid Game could really hammer home a lot of problems with that broken system, especially because it seems that soon a lot of Americans are going to be losing their healthcare. There also are a lot of American Dream-style criticisms the show could draw on as well, in showing how Americans could find themselves so desperate they'd compete in something like the Squid Game, they'd be able to shine a light on how perhaps our system isn't as equal as some would like to let on.
It's called the American Dream because you have to be asleep to believe it.
Another fun thing to speculate on would be what kinds of games we might see. I know a lot of people were annoyed that the recruiter at the end of the final episode was playing Dachki, a Korean game, in order to recruit for American Squid Game. I think there's 3 reasons why they did this. 1, it's immediately recognizable what's going on because we as the audience know this is how they recruit people, and 2, it's a parallel to the ending of season 1, where Gyun hears the exact same sound, although I think the biggest reason it's not a different game is because this scene wasn't actually written to segue into a spin-off, since according to the creator, Hwang Dong-hyuk, it would have been the ending regardless of the existence of an American Squid Game spin-off. Even with that in mind, I think it would have been great to see the recruiter playing something else at the end that sets up what kind of game we might see in the American Squid Game, almost like a little teaser for it. However, I'm actually kind of struggling with what that game would be. See, Dachki as a game is perfect for the recruiter's message, because it's a game that a skilled player could reliably win every time, and an unskilled player would take a little while to learn. But the unskilled player would eventually win, which gives the recruiter the desired outcome of slapping the prospective player many, many times, while still being able to award them the money, which manipulates them into joining the game. I honestly can't think of an American game that would accomplish the same thing. If you can think of one, comment down below. Anyway, an American Squid Game is a great opportunity to play some American games. I think Dodgeball would be a good contender because it's 1, a dynamic, fast-paced game, 2, gives an opportunity for players to knowingly target one another, and 3, could even have an element of players choosing to bring back someone on their own team if they catch a ball. Dodgeball is also kind of a game that's associated with like childhood bullying and trauma and all that, so I think it would be great for these characters' backstories. Another game idea would be a floor is lava kind of game, but you know, with literal lava. Although that would probably drift into Mario Party minigame territory and come off as unrealistic and cartoonish and make the show feel like a parody of itself. Although it could be one of those games where you get eliminated by falling from a great height and the bottom is just painted like lava. It'd be a lot of fun. Well, fun for the audience, downright terrifying for the characters. I also think they should have something video game related. Come on, have them play Fortnite. I know it sounds silly, but playing a video game with your life at stake? That would be pretty crazy. All in all, I think I am a lot more optimistic about the idea of an American Squid Game than most. A lot of that is probably because I personally enjoyed seasons 2 and 3 of Squid Game as much as I enjoyed season 1. I know a lot of others don't have that same sentiment, and some even think that Squid Game should have only been a 1-season show. And while there is a sense of a perfect cohesive story with season 1 alone, I don't think the 2nd and 3rd season take away from that, and I don't think an American spin-off, provided it's done well, would take away from that either. While we all don't want to see Squid Game Season 25 Phase 4 somehow il nam return nonsense, I don't think the show should just be done after these 3 seasons. The show has a really important message and it clearly has a large cultural following, and I just don't think they should hang up their pink coats and shape masks just yet. But what do you think of Squid Game America? Do you think it's a good idea? What kind of games do you think they would play? What do you think of the ending of Squid Game Season 3? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and check out some of my other videos right here. That's all for me. See you next time.